The world remembers March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 disappeared en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The Boeing 777-200ER vanished without a clear trace. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members. Their fate remains largely unknown. This event triggered one of history's largest searches. Yet, definitive answers are still elusive. The mystery continues to baffle experts and haunts the families involved. Flight MH370 became more than a missing aircraft. It became a symbol of modern vulnerability. How could a large jet disappear in an age of technology? The aircraft was equipped with advanced communication systems and tracking devices. Yet it seemingly slipped through every net. The lack of distress signals was particularly puzzling. The silence from the cockpit was deafening. It left investigators with few starting points. The search for truth began immediately. The disappearance sent ripples of shock worldwide. News outlets provided constant updates. Speculation grew with each passing day. The information vacuum was quickly filled with theories. Some were plausible, others less so. The incident highlighted gaps in global flight tracking and emergency response. The aviation industry faced intense scrutiny. Calls for improved safety measures became louder. The world watched, waited, and hoped for news. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 began its journey routinely. It departed from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:41 local time on March 8, 2014. The aircraft was a Boeing 777-200ER, known for its strong safety record. The flight was scheduled to arrive in Beijing at 6:30 local time. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah was in command, assisted by First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid. The aircraft carried 239 people, including 227 passengers and 12 crew members. The plane taxied to the runway and took off into the dark Malaysian night. The initial climb seemed perfectly normal, and air traffic controllers monitored its ascent. The aircraft followed its planned route, heading northeast over the Malay Peninsula and towards the South China Sea. There were no indications of any trouble, and no distress calls were made from the cockpit. The flight proceeded smoothly for about 40 minutes, reaching its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. It was, by all accounts, an ordinary flight. The transition from routine to mystery was abrupt. The last verbal contact with Flight MH370 was crucial. It occurred at 1:19 local time over the South China Sea. The aircraft was transitioning from Malaysian to Vietnamese air traffic control. The Malaysian controller radioed the flight, instructing the pilots to contact Ho Chi Minh City. Captain Zahari, or First Officer Farik, responded with the now famous words, "Good night, Malaysian 370. This was the final voice transmission, sounding calm and routine. Shortly after this last voice message, something changed. At 1:21 local time, the aircraft's transponder ceased transmitting. The transponder is vital as it communicates the plane's identity, altitude, and speed. Its sudden silence was a significant event. Without the transponder, the plane became a ghost, making it difficult for civilian air traffic controllers to track it. This was the first clear sign of trouble. The aircraft had effectively disappeared from their screens. Vietnamese air traffic controllers never established contact with MH370. They expected the plane to check in, and when it did not, they began to query. Malaysian controllers were also trying to re-establish communication. There was a period of growing concern. Initially, it might have been dismissed as a communication glitch. However, as minutes turned into an hour, alarm bells rang. The aircraft was officially declared missing. The search and rescue operations were initiated. Military radar, however, painted a different picture. Unlike civilian radar, military systems can track objects without transponders. Data later revealed something astonishing. MH370 did not simply vanish. After crossing the Malay Peninsula, MH370 continued undetected by civilian air traffic control. Military radar tracked it until 2:22 local time near Pulau Perak. After this, the aircraft flew beyond radar range. For hours, its location was unknown, yet it was still airborne. Inmarsat provided a breakthrough. Their satellites had been in contact with the aircraft. MH370 sent hourly handshakes. These pings showed the plane was still powered. The final handshake was at 8:11 local time. Analysis of these pings became critical. Engineers used the Doppler effect to estimate the aircraft's distance. This produced two arcs of possible locations. Most investigators focused on the southern arc. The final ping suggested the aircraft's systems were shutting down. Another signal indicated a logon request, possibly from a system reboot. This data pointed to a crash in a remote part of the ocean. The mystery deepened with this new information. The search for MH370 began in the South China Sea, led by Malaysia and Vietnam. The search area was vast and confusing due to conflicting information. The Inmarsat data shifted focus to the southern Indian Ocean. Australia led this phase, deploying advanced sonar technology. Despite enormous efforts, the main wreckage was not found. The search was the most expensive in aviation history. The world watched, hoping for a breakthrough. The prevailing theory supports a crash in the southern Indian Ocean, based on the Inmarsat satellite data. The handshakes indicated a southern flight path, with the final ping suggesting the plane flew for hours, exhausting its fuel supply. A controlled ditching or an uncontrolled crash would follow. The vastness of this ocean region made finding wreckage incredibly difficult. The search area was refined multiple times based on updated analysis of the satellite signals. In July 2015, a piece of debris washed ashore on Reunion Island, east of Madagascar. This was thousands of kilometers from the main search area. The debris was a flaperon, a part of an aircraft's wing. Experts confirmed it belonged to a Boeing 777, with serial numbers later matching it to MH370. This was the first physical evidence confirming the plane had indeed crashed and supported the southern Indian Ocean theory. Ocean currents could have carried the debris that far. More pieces of debris were subsequently found, washing up on coastlines in Mozambique, South Africa, and Mauritius. These items were also confirmed as likely or highly likely from MH370. They included parts of the engine cowling and cabin interior. Drift analysis of these items helped refine models to predict the crash location. However, the ocean is a dynamic environment, making pinpointing an exact site challenging. The debris confirmed the tragic end but did not explain the cause. The underwater search focused on a specific arc determined by the satellite data. Despite covering a vast area, no wreckage was found on the seabed. This led to questions about the data's interpretation. Perhaps the search was in the wrong place, or maybe the wreckage was too deep or too fragmented to detect. The official search was suspended in January 2017. Authorities stated it would not resume without credible new evidence. This decision was met with dismay by many. The lack of a clear explanation fueled many theories. One theory involves a deliberate hijacking by terrorists or unknown individuals. The transponder being turned off and the plane's deviation pointed to intent. No group claimed responsibility for the disappearance. Passengers' backgrounds were scrutinized, but no clear links to extremist groups were found. Another theory centers on pilot involvement, suggesting one of the pilots deliberately crashed the plane. This could be an act of pilot suicide, taking all passengers along. Investigators examined the pilots' lives. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah had a flight simulator at home with data recovered showing a flight path similar to the one MH370 is believed to have taken. This discovery was concerning but not conclusive proof of intent. Such simulations are not uncommon for aviation enthusiasts. Other theories proposed mechanical failure or fire. A catastrophic event could have disabled communication systems and incapacitated the crew. However, the deliberate turn westward makes this less likely. A fire or decompression event might not allow for such controlled flight for hours. Some speculated about a ghost flight where the crew is incapacitated but the plane flies on autopilot until it runs out of fuel. This aligns with the satellite data but doesn't explain the initial deviations. The cargo manifest was also examined. MH370 was carrying a consignment of mangosteens and lithium-ion batteries. These batteries have been known to cause fires on aircraft. However, the quantity and packaging met regulations, and there was no direct evidence linking the cargo to the disappearance. Each theory has its proponents and its problems. Without the main wreckage and black boxes, speculation persists. The truth remains hidden beneath layers of uncertainty. The mystery endures, leaving questions unanswered. The disappearance of MH370 inflicted immense pain. Families of the 239 people on board were plunged into turmoil. Their lives changed forever on that March day. They faced an agonizing wait for information. Initial hopes for a swift rescue faded, turning into a prolonged period of uncertainty. The lack of definitive answers was excruciating, preventing any sense of closure. Many families clung to hope, finding it difficult to accept their loved ones were gone. Governments and the airline provided updates, but communication was sometimes criticized. Families felt frustrated by the lack of concrete news. They formed support groups like Voice 370, advocating for continued search efforts and demanding transparency from authorities. They traveled to Malaysia and other countries, seeking meetings with officials. Their quest for truth became a global campaign. Their resilience in the face of such tragedy was remarkable. They refused to let their loved ones be forgotten. The emotional toll was, and continues to be, immense. Grief mixed with anger and confusion. The psychological impact of ambiguous loss is profound, different from grieving a confirmed death. The not knowing creates a unique kind of suffering. Anniversaries of the disappearance are particularly painful. Families gather to remember and to demand action. They share stories of those lost, keeping their memories alive. The world watched their struggle with deep sympathy. The discovery of debris brought mixed emotions. It confirmed the plane had crashed, ending some slivers of hope for survivors. Yet it did not explain why or how. For many, it was not enough for closure. Until then, families live in a painful limbo. As of 2025, over a decade has passed. The disappearance of Flight MH370 remains unsolved. It stands as one of aviation's most perplexing mysteries. The official underwater search was suspended in January 2017. This decision was made by Malaysia, Australia, and China. They stated that new, credible evidence would be needed to resume. This left many feeling that the search ended prematurely. The vastness of the Indian Ocean means areas could have been missed. Technology also continues to improve. Despite the official suspension, efforts have not entirely ceased. Private companies have expressed interest in new searches. Ocean Infinity, a US-based company, conducted a private search in 2018. This was on a no-find, no-fee basis. Unfortunately, this search also yielded no results. Families and independent researchers continue to analyze data, proposing new search areas. The desire for answers remains strong. The Malaysian government has indicated openness to credible new proposals. Hope for a resolution, however faint, persists. The legacy of MH370 extends beyond the mystery itself. It has led to significant changes in aviation safety. The International Civil Aviation Organization, ICO, implemented new standards. These include longer battery life for black box pingers and requirements for aircraft tracking. Global flight tracking initiatives aim to prevent another such disappearance. The enigma of MH370 continues to capture public imagination. The world still hopes that one day, the full story will be known. If you found this deep dive intriguing, please like and subscribe for more content like this.